I'm Stuart McIntosh with the BBC News. Hello. President Volodymyr Zelensky has said a world order based on rules and humanity depends on how events play out in Ukraine. He was speaking after an unannounced visit to Kiev by President Biden. Mr. Biden said America would back Ukraine for as long as it took. Jeremy Bowen reports.
Ukraine is pushing the Americans and other Western allies for more powerful weapons, including modern warplanes, as well as continuing shipments to replace the huge amounts of shells and rockets it's expended. It wants to win, to drive Russia out, not just hold its own in a long war of attrition. The Ukrainians want a decisive upgrade as soon as possible. President Putin seems to believe that Russia can tough it out longer than the West. President Zelensky wants to be able to act before voices in NATO calling for negotiation and a peace deal that hands Russia territory get any louder.
Rescue services in Turkey are once again searching for people trapped under rubble after a new earthquake hit the southeast, the same region devastated by a powerful quake earlier this month. 3 people are known to have died and 200 were injured. The BBC's Anna Foster is in the city of Adana.
This was felt not just across southern Turkey, it was felt down into Lebanon as well and across Syria. It is something that people's reaction to is really quite visceral now. After these first 2 earthquakes a fortnight ago, when the ground starts to shake, and it does significantly, you can really feel the earth moving. People get up and they move outside. I was in a relatively modern hotel lobby. We watched the chandeliers swinging, but you see that sense of fear in people's faces. They saw what happened here 2 weeks ago and they move immediately outside very quickly.
Protesters have attempted to break through barricades in front of the Israeli parliament as MPs debate a controversial judicial reform bill proposed by the far-right-backed government. Security guards removed a group of protesters from the observation gallery. Here's Tom Bateman in Jerusalem.
Well, this has been an extremely feisty session of the Israeli parliament, the Knesset, including protesters hammering on the windows in the viewing gallery and other opposition MPs at some point not being able to get into the chamber. The reason there has been so much debate and passionate argument and protest around all of this is simply the number of Israelis that believe that the proposed changes by Israel's new right-wing religious and nationalist government, they think that those changes really cut to the core of Israel's identity as a democratic country.
That was Tom Bateman reporting from Jerusalem. I'm Stuart McIntosh here in London, bringing you the latest world news from the BBC. The number of people killed by flash floods and landslides in southeastern Brazil has risen to 40. Rescuers are searching the mud and rubble for survivors after record rainfall devastated a stretch of coast in Sao Paulo state. President Lula da Silva visited the worst-hit area around the beach city of São Sebastião, promising government support for reconstruction. A stroke survivor, partially paralysed on her left side, has been able to move her hand and arm for the first time in a decade. The team in Pittsburgh implanted electrodes into her neck to stimulate the spinal cord. Heather Rendulic was able to open and close her fist, lift and move a can of soup, and even cut a piece of steak.
The very first day I came into the lab and they turned the stimulation on for the first time, I actually was able to open my hand for the first time in 9 years. And my family and I were in tears of just overwhelming joy and happiness, and it was an amazing experience.
The researchers say the procedure does not require invasive surgery. It involves implanting a pair of thin metal electrodes along the neck to engage intact nerve cells. France's finance minister has said international talks aimed at ensuring that huge multinational companies, such as technology giants, pay more taxes on the profits they make, have come to a standstill. Bruno Le Maire said the talks were primarily being blocked by the United States, Saudi Arabia and India. He suggested European Union countries should consider moving ahead on their own. More than 30 countries, including the US, Britain, Germany and France, have pledged their support for banning Russian and Belarusian athletes from competing in international sporting events. The letter, agreed at a summit 10 days ago, follows recent moves by the International Olympic Committee to allow these athletes to compete in Paris Olympics and other competitions as neutrals. And that's the BBC News.